All right, guys, here we have a special guest today, the legend, the man himself, Mr. Jamie Gold, the 2006 World Series of Poker main event, the biggest one ever, champion. You guys might know him from that, but I know him as a Hollywood powerhouse. I know him as one of the most giving philanthropic poker players that I know. I know him as a business and investment shark. I know him as a great poker ambassador, and he's on his second, third, maybe fourth career now as a sports betting sharp. Jamie, welcome.
It's good to see you, always. Thank you for having me.
Now, today we're just going to basically have a casual conversation. I know a lot of people are really curious and excited about the man himself, the myth, the legend. So we'll hop around on some topics, early life, what it was like winning the main event, all this great stuff. And if you don't mind telling some stories, we'll rock and roll.
Sure, yeah.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about the origin story. I know that your mom played poker and your dad was a rummy champion.
No, my grandfather.
Grandfather,
actually,
yes,
yeah.
grandfather. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I grew up, I was really fortunate. We didn't have any money, but my mom had to live with my grandparents when I was growing up, and it gave me the ability to watch him play. He would have games every Friday, Saturday, Sunday in his apartment. And so I would sit on his lap, and I can remember as early as 3 years old that I was just learning how to understand cards. And I guess getting an innate sense, maybe I was born with it. I was just lucky that my mom is a really good card player. My grandfather was this incredible gin rummy player. And it's a very similar type of skill set to play gin as it is to poker. It's a memory, it's a understanding the players that you're playing against. It's some math, it's psychology. And so I learned so much from the two of them. We would play a lot of games in the house also, and we were just very competitive. And so I think that certainly has stayed with me my whole life. I've just been very competitive. Whatever it is that I'm doing, I want to be a sponge of information and learn as much as I can and evolve, and games are always constantly evolving. So whether it's poker or sports betting or investing, it's all pretty much the same skill set. That, it's risk versus reward. It's getting as much information as you can when information is limited, and then trying to make the best decisions. Everything is about making the right decisions at the right time, right? So it's about timing, it's about risk, it's about being as educated as you can. As these games evolve, as sports betting, as poker, as investment, it evolves. You just have to stay on top of things so that you don't get lazy, so that you can kind of stay ahead of the curve. That it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and a lot of people say, like, wow, just teach me how to do it. It's not as simple as it sounds. Any one of these things that you take on as an endeavor, you have to immerse yourself in that world, and they're all related,
Right.
but they're all completely different worlds as well. And so I just feel like I'm willing to spend the time, or maybe I'm fortunate enough to have the kind of time that it takes. Not everybody can put that kind of time in.
Right. It's limited information, but it's the art of decision making. Right, and it sounds like they were training you at 3 years old to start understanding this. And now, what was like the hook for cards? What got you to come back? We talked about you saw it, but what was the one thing about cards that kept you going? I'm interested in this. I want to develop.
So yeah, I've been playing my whole life. I mean, I remember we would play in summer camp, where we would play for candy, right? Because we were allowed to get a certain amount of candy at the canteen every week. And at the end of the summer, I would always have this trunk full of people's candy that I would, of course, just give back to everybody. But I was very good at winning all the candy. And so my whole life, anytime I would have a group of friends, that we would be looking for something to do, I would always suggest, let's play poker. Whether it was for money or not, I just
Double up or
always
triple
loved.
up on your allowance, man.
Well, I always loved it, and I always seemed to have a sense, call it a sixth sense, call it a psychic ability for reading people, reading cards, understanding, ranges and things like that I didn't necessarily have to study a lot of that part of my, poker playing skills. It was much more of understanding how everybody else is playing. The game is changing every year. So you need to understand, even if you don't want to use solvers, you don't want to use game theory, GTO, you have to understand that that's what so many other players are doing.
Right.
So you don't have to change your style every year, but you have to at least adjust to all the other styles, right? The way that other people are playing. And so when I coach people and try to help them up their game, it's about learning every other style so that when you confront it, you understand how to combat it.
Right.
And so I just feel like I am so interested in any new information that is available that it will always, if you're an educated human and you're willing to keep continuing your education, you will always have a better chance to be a better player.
You want all that information.
Because you're always learning, right?
all that
That's the beauty of poker. You can never master the game.
Correct.
Because it's always changing, and the way other people are playing against you is always changing, right? So we're playing a game of limited information. And so the more education that you can have in a game of limited information and understanding how people are much more likely to be playing based on every factor, based on how they look, what they're doing at the moment, what their age is, what their background is. It's amazing how often you can kind of put people into categories of players. And then they do kind of play that way, based on, because everything is a guess.
Right.
So when you sit down at the World Series of Poker and you have to get through a field of 5,000 or 10,000 people, you have to take a lot of guesses, and you're figuring out, all right, what are the chances that this person is bluffing in this spot? You just take in all the information that you can, and then you just make really educated guesses.
The best decision that you can make at the time with the information given.
Everything is about decision making and limited information, and so that is for filmmaking. It is, even though that's much more of an art and a science, there is so much art and science in poker, and so much art and science in sports betting, and so much art and science in investing, and helping companies grow. People felt like maybe why am I doing these things on the side? They're all related. Everything I do is related.
Well, I know you long enough. I know how the Jamie mind works and how this ecosystem and this universe ties together. It makes a lot of sense. All right, it's not all just individual things. It's all one thing.
Yes.
All right. So now, was there anything that you had, when you were just learning the game that you still carry to today?
I would say that when we first started playing, it was more about stud and draw, right? We used to play 5-card stud and we would play 5-card draw, and those games basically don't exist anymore.
Right.
There are versions of them, but those specific games don't exist anymore. So the only thing that I probably still have with me are the ways to read other people's hands and reading other players and understanding just the general. I believe that there's an energy and a flow to every game, and it changes all the time. And when you are kind of in that flow state, that you can kind of see everything, where there are games where you can't see anything, and you just feel like, I am not connected to this game at all, and things are just not coming to me. But when you can get into that state, and you can't really force it, but very often when I'm at my best, I am truly in understanding the state of the flow of the game and the energy that's happening, and you can kind of see how things are going. And it's really amazing that still happens now. What was happening then when I was playing, when I was 3, 5, 10, 15 years old, there was an energy and a flow to those games. And now there is a different energy and a flow to the games that we are playing. And it's certainly, and believe it or not, it's also similar in sports betting, that if you kind of tap into this universal energy that you're just so focused. Now, a lot of this comes from preparation.
A lot of research, yeah.
Right? That people say you're the luckiest human. I absolutely am. But a lot of my luck has come from being prepared to be in the situation to get lucky. So a lot of people would say to me, like, oh, I should have won the World Series of Poker instead of you. And I said, sure. How many times did you play it? Oh, I haven't played it.
Well,
all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah,
right? So the first thing, you actually have to be in the game to be able to win the game. And so before you get into the game, do as much research as you can. Study as much as you can. It's not just watching poker on television, because a lot of that is edited. A lot of that
all after the fact, right?
And in a vacuum,
right? Exactly.
Just because Phil Ivey played Ace-7 really strongly and kept raising him, doesn't mean that you, in the one situation, well, I have Ace-7, I should be playing.
Right.
They don't, very often, the people that I'm trying to help don't understand that it is all situational. So when they say, what do you think about this hand? I can't possibly, what is Ace-King? It's meaningless.
What happened the last 3 hours?
Everything is about your situation based on everything that's happened up until that point. And so you have to take in all the information and everything. That poker is a game of life. And just like in life, one situation is not, should I cross the street now? Well, maybe. But if you've lived long enough, you know that the chances of a car coming and hitting you are so slim in this situation. But if it was the first time you ever crossed the street, you wouldn't know.
It was rush hour, and it was, depends on.
You wouldn't know, right? So it's all about experience and education and preparation. And then, yes, I get lucky all the time. But I put myself into so many situations where I can get lucky, that I've been prepared, so that I'm not in a situation where if I just get unlucky, I'm out of a tournament. Right? So you try your best. And look, as I talk to you this week, it's been happening to me. I've been, you get it in with the best of it, and multiple times in a row, you're just constantly losing and calling it getting unlucky. But there were things that I could have done better. There were things that I could have done. Now, sometimes you cannot avoid it. Whatever happened, the cards that you got and the situations that you were in, if you hadn't have played those hands, you would have blinded out. Meaning, there are tournaments where you're going to lose no matter what. There is no chance, no matter what you do, that you can make it to even cashing in a tournament. There are just some times where you are set up to lose, meaning over and over and over again. Not the one last hand that maybe you didn't play so well, and now you had to shove it in with whatever hand you had, and you got unlucky, yes, but you didn't. You put yourself into a situation where you were so short you had no shot.
Right. So I love this. We just channeled a little bit of the philosophical Jamie, and I want to tie that back into, well, let's go back to 2006, right? Where that flow state. Walk me through that main event. I'm sure that flow state was in full effect. Walk me through that experience.
It was. I had been training in my own way, meaning I basically took at least the last year before I tried to play that was my first main event. First time ever playing the World Series of Poker. And I took the entire year off to just focus on poker, to give myself one shot. Because, at the time when you're working, a lot of people can't take 10 days off.
Right.
I had never taken a vacation in 12 years before that. So I was just so engrossed in my work that I needed to make a change. I was getting burned out.
Right.
My dad was dying. Both my mom and my dad said, listen, all you've ever done is help artists build their careers and help other people make their dreams come true. And I was really good at it. And I made a lot of money and I was very successful, but I wasn't happy.
Right.
And I had no time for myself. I was living with my girlfriend. I never saw her.
Yeah.
I was just working 24 hours a day. And so I took an actual year where all I was doing was basically playing poker, focusing. Yes, I was doing a little bit of business on the side. I would do maybe a few book deals, movie deals, TV deals for a few people as favors, but mainly in exchange for, like, I was helping Johnny Chan.
Right.
In exchange, he allowed me to hang out and sit behind him and see. I was maybe playing on 3 levels where most people were playing on 1 level. So yes, I was better than the average player. But I always like to say, just because you can beat all your friends at chess, that doesn't make you a grandmaster, right? It just makes you better than your friends who are maybe not that great.
So we'll get back to Johnny in a second because I'm curious about that as well. So I know that how meticulous that you prepare for the main event every year, right? So you took a year. What was that year like, and how did you prepare? Is there any tips for players preparing for this?
Well, I mean, I knew I wasn't the best player in the world. I knew that I was outclassed in experience and all the skills that they had. And so part of why I would sit behind Johnny and watch him play against the best in the world was then I could see, okay, maybe he didn't teach me a lot, but he was so kind in allowing me to hang around. And this was in LA, where so many of the best poker players at that time were playing in LA. It wasn't, Vegas became kind of the hub, but at that time, this is in the early 2000s, LA was the poker capital of the world.
Now, how did you connect with Johnny? What was the connection?
I tracked him down because I was such a huge fan.
Yeah.
Poker players were just becoming celebrities. I was an agent for celebrities, if you want to call it that. I was an agent for actors, writers, directors, some athletes and artists, music. But I knew that poker players were going to become these celebrities, kind of like NASCAR drivers. The year before, NASCAR was never on television. Most of the drivers were broke. They were lucky if they were making $50 a week. And all of a sudden, they're making $50 million a year. So I saw it as my favorite hobby at the time. So if it's my favorite hobby at the time, and I'm such a huge poker fan, and I wanted to be the best poker player that I could be, I wanted to win the main event at the World Series of Poker. So I just thought, all right, I'm going to track down the best players that I can find and try to exchange. I wanted to provide value to them. I didn't want to ask them for anything.
Right.
I said, what can I do for you so that you'll let me hang around, and really what I wanted them to do was teach me.
Right.
But they weren't willing to do that.
That's a secret.
Now a lot of people are coaching and teaching and offering, but back then they didn't want to share their secrets, right? There were a few books, but that was it. All the information is available now, so anybody who wants to be a great poker player can be. Back then, you could not necessarily be a great poker player just because you wanted to be.
Pre-internet, post-internet.
Right, right. The internet was around, but there were no videos.
Yeah.
There was no, it was the beginning of everything.
Right.
It was the beginning of the boom. It was right when Chris Moneymaker won, and so it was between 2003, 2006, and so during that time, I just said to them, listen, I will be your advisor, agent, whatever you want to call it, book deals, TV deals, movie deals, whatever you need me to help you with, and in exchange, I want you to at least let me hang around. And then all of a sudden, everything opened up to me where you can play on 7 different levels, maybe more now. Young players are just playing at a level where we never were. And so it's really interesting how I then kind of figured out everything that I didn't know and then put myself on my own path of learning of everything that I needed to learn, and then also understood that, all right, there are all of these little daily tournaments. We're only playing maybe 300 to 500 players a day, but they would only last a day, maybe 2 days. At the Bike, at the Hustler, at the Commerce, where I started, Hawaiian Gardens.
Right.
And some of the best players in the world were playing these to warm up for the World Series of Poker. That's how a lot of people warmed up.
Right.
So I would play against Johnny Chan and Doral Brunson and Barry Greenstein in these dailies. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're winning, if you're lucky, you're winning maybe 50 grand. They weren't $1 million tournaments, but I was crushing them. And I would say that of the last, I maybe played 25 events right before let's say in the last 2 months, I think I won 11 of them, which is crazy, which will never happen again, meaning in my life. But it was just because I created a style that no one was used to. Now, could I do that now? No way. I couldn't even have done it then if I wasn't I was talking people in and out of their hands. And it was absolutely the table talk that they weren't used to. So I would basically tell people exactly what I had, and they didn't think that a poker player would ever tell the truth. And so I kind of brought that in. And that's why Johnny Chan said, this kid is going to win the World Series of Poker. He's going to win the main event because no one sees him coming. They have no idea what to do with him. Because I could figure out how to basically tell people exactly what I had. So imagine if you could never lose when you had the best hand.
Right.
So people would just always fold to me and I would show them the best hand. Or I would just flip my cards over. I was doing the craziest things, which was legal then.
Right.
And so, yes, they've changed the rules.
A little bit, right?
And so, there is that Jamie Gold rule that they call it. It's just different now, and it was so much more fun back then, and people were taking table talk very seriously and bringing in the psychological aspects of this game. And so I love that part of it of, I was never mean or rude to anybody. It's not berating people. It's truly trying to win the mental game of poker.
Right.
And so I got really good at that because I saw no one else was doing it. No one was saying a word in any event that I was ever playing, maybe in cash games. So I wanted to bring the cash game fun energy into poker tournaments. And yes, the right place at the right time with the biggest one ever, and no one saw it coming.
Right.
So they didn't know what to do with me. And they thought that I couldn't possibly be telling the truth. And I basically was just telling the truth every hand. And they would.
What a novel approach.
It was amazing how it was just, everything in life is pretty much about timing.
And you were saying something earlier, which is setting yourself up for success, right? That the initiative to go and interact and get that coaching from Johnny eventually put you in a position where you developed your own style, right? So now, at what point in the 2006 main event did you start seeing, oh, hey, look, this thing is got some legs. I figured out a little momentum. What were some of the highs and maybe some of the lows?
Yeah, on day one, everything went wrong. And I was basically going to be out by the dinner break. I mean, I was just losing. No matter what I did, everything went south on me. I couldn't win a hand, no matter how. Aces, no good. I flop a set, no good. Top two pair, no good. I make a straight, they river a flush. Whatever it was that could go wrong, went wrong. And I was still, back then we only started with 10,000 chips. Now you start with 50,000. And yes, the blinds were smaller, but it was still much tougher to kind of stay alive when you only have 10,000 chips, even on day one, because, even when the blinds are getting up to whatever, they're at, whatever, 250, 500, when now I'm down to 10 big blinds,
right.
You're
real quick.
I was down to maybe 3,000, 2,000 coming near the dinner break. And I remember that my friend, two of my friends were flying home that night from Vegas on a private jet. They were going to do a big birthday party. And I told them to save a seat for me because I'm definitely going to be out. There's no way I'm making it past the dinner break. Things were just wrong. And then by the last level of the day, I was number 2 in chips, and of that day, right? There were usually back then. I think there were 3-day ones. Maybe they made it into 4-day ones. And so I got sat on a table where two of the other, maybe there were top 5 of us that had this level of chips. Let's call it 150,000, which was massive. It would be like, having 750,000 on day one now, crazy amount.
Do you remember that moment where it went from, hey, look, I'm not doing too well, I'm puking up chips. Was there a pivotal moment before it started?
No, it just all started going my way.
Yeah.
And I think that I wasn't using any of the table talk because I would just get into the hand with what I believed was the best hand.
Right.
And
so you're just playing like everybody else. Yeah, you're
playing like everybody else, and it was not going well. And then I started the table talk, and because I started getting chips, and I started telling people listen, you do not want to go home right now. So just trust me, I'm telling you the two cards that I have in my hand, you want to fold.
Right.
And they're like, and they would just give me all their chips because
Right.
they would say, there's no way you're telling the truth. You have to be bluffing them. I'm telling you exactly what I have, and you're giving me all your chips. And so it worked out really well so now I have about 150,000, which again is like 750,000 now. I get sat at a table with two others, so we're at the last level. I remember exactly where I was in that room. I'm in the corner, last level, and the three of us, with the big chip leaders, who you would think do not want, the whole strategy is you do not get into it when everybody else has anywhere from 5,000 to maybe, if they're lucky, 30 to 50,000 at the max, but really 5 to 30,000 is where they're at right now. And I have 150,000. All I want to do is play against them, or not play at all.
Exactly.
I could coast into day 2 or 3.
Let them fight it out. Yeah, right.
And so the last thing I'm going to do is get involved with it. But a hand came up, and it was the pivotal hand of the whole tournament for me. And I've talked about this. They did a piece in the New York Times about it. This was the hand where I was in the blind with pocket threes. The two that I'm playing with, one min raised, I believe. The other calls, and I have pocket threes. So, for a min raise, easy.
Yeah, sure.
So easy. So of course I call. It comes something like three king, queen, 2 diamonds. And there was something going on with the original raiser that I just thought, for whatever it was, you just put people on hands. I just put them on aces. For whatever reason, I just thought there's something weird about that min raise. There was just the way, and we've been playing for an hour now, and I just, you just have these ideas.
You tapped into that table energy.
And I was so locked in, but I had no idea what this one had yet. Yeah. I hadn't really put him on a hand yet. And so he bets out. He raises him, pretty big.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, what is going on? Does this guy have pocket queens? I have a set, so I have the third nuts.
Right.
There's no way I'm folding right here. Not right now. And once he does that, and I'm just thinking now, or maybe this guy has a set of kings now.
Right.
And if he does have ace, and I'm just thinking, I could be stuck in a really weird spot, but I want to know, and I'm going to hang around. And it wasn't that pot wasn't that big. So let's say it's probably, there could be like 5,000 in there. Maybe he made it, like 2,000 or 3,000. So I was willing to do that with 150,000. I still have second nuts. I'm sorry. I still have the third nuts.
Yes.
So I call. This guy gets so upset, and I don't remember if he turned over his hand, but he basically said he had aces. And he was like, I can't believe what's going on. It was like, because you have aces.
Right.
And back then, again, you're kind of allowed to talk.
Yeah.
So I was like, we know you have aces. Just fold your hand. We get it. And of course, I shouldn't have been saying anything because it was 3 ways. I wasn't purposely trying to collude or do anything. I was just ignorant. It was my first World Series of Poker. And I'm so excited, but also really nervous. And so he ends up folding. So it's me and him. Now, a 10 comes, which could easily make him a straight both ways. Like if he had ace king, which I don't think he would have been raising with ace king, so I didn't put him on that. But there is a straight out there and he could at least have he could have a bigger set than me. He could have. I just didn't know where I was.
Right.
And I hate not knowing where I am. And so he's betting into me, and I don't know where I am, and I'm like. I call, but I hated it. So he probably bet like 4,000, and I'm already in for, I'm probably in for 4,000, so it's costing me another 4. And I'm just thinking, I don't know. And even if the board pairs, I might not be good, but I called. Next card comes, it's a flush card. And so I'm hating this. There's a straight and a flush and 2 bigger sets than me. That could easily be in the way that the hand.
There's a lot of variables going on.
I hate my hand, and in the back of my mind, I'm probably I'm probably hating it. I'm not going to call a regular bet. Probably. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I check. He goes all in. And I'm like, well, then obviously it's such an easy fold, right? But I don't know why. There was something inside me saying, hold on, relax, just focus. And so I just start staring him down. And I'm staring and I'm staring and I'm also going, look, I'm not wasting time. It's not that I have nothing. I have a set. And he's like, well, if you have a set, then just call already. And he was getting and all of a sudden, because we're the two of the top 5 chip leaders, they like all the reporters are around.
Right, they're starting to gather around.
People are gathering around, and I am taking way too much time. Right. And I know it, and I'm saying like, all right, you can call me down, call me, clock, whatever you want, but I'm going to take all my time on this one because I feel like he's bluffing me.
Right.
All of a sudden, because he would never get that angry.
Yeah, why would you get so angry?
He was so angry about everything. And I'm like, I've never seen someone who's about to be the massive chip leader. I'm talking about like 10 times the average or 20 times the average.
Right.
Why is this guy so upset with me?
Oh, he doesn't like
and
the
I'm
sweat.
just like, and I'm like, you know what? This could be the worst call that I ever make, but if I'm right, and I just saw it in his face. He does not have it. He does not have me beat.
Right.
I call, and he turns over ace queen, which just was like, what? Made no sense, but I just felt like my read was so on. At that point I was 98% that I was right, meaning he didn't have a straight or a flush.
Right.
And he also didn't have a bigger set than me. Maybe he was the one with the aces. I don't know. But this guy said that he didn't turn him over. Right. But he basically did when he's like, all right, I'm going to fold my aces. But he didn't show them.
Right.
So but it was just, that was the hand. So from that point on, I just had this incredible confidence that I think maybe some people mistook for arrogance or that I was just full of myself. But no, I just knew that I was in my zone and I was going to trust my reads, and that whatever, that if I took my time, I could figure out where I was in every hand with every player. And also having such a massive stack, you could, especially back then, people weren't willing to play back at me. So I was bullying. I was just, every table I would go to, I had the entire table covered. So let's say I had
firepower,
1 million. Everybody collectively did not have more than me.
Right.
So nobody could hurt me at all. So I was just going at it, and then just going bigger and bigger. And by day 3, I was the chip leader. Because I was still only like, after day 1 and 2, I was still only in the top 10, because there were people who were just running running crazy, and good for them, but they didn't end up going deep. But by day 3, I was the chip leader, and I was a chip leader for the last 8 days straight, which they said has never come. I don't think anybody's done more than 2.
That's ridiculous.
So that will never be broken, probably. I'll always have that fun little record of being chip leader for 8 days straight in the main event.
So let's go towards the moment that's about to be over, right? Tell me about that last hand, and then actually the moment of securing that title.
So we were the under over for the final table of the last day was 27 hours was what they were predicting. Again, it played differently back then, but the under over was 27 hours that this final table was going to go. I just had the same style. I was going after everybody. I was playing almost every hand. Even if I had to fold or whatever, I would just take, anybody who wasn't willing to put all their chips at risk, I would just slowly kind of take and take and take. And so I was playing probably now way too many hands, but it was working. The style was working. And so I knocked out, what do we have to knock out 8? I knocked out 7 of 8 myself, which again is very rare, because you're not supposed to be doing all that. You're just supposed to be trying to survive.
You were the juggernaut.
And so I just went after everybody. And so I took out 7 of 8. I'm now down to the last player. And people were predicting that because he only really had to win, even though I had 90% of the chips, he had 10% of the chips. It was somewhere around there, maybe 85-15. Imagine if, so 85-15, it goes 60-30 if he wins one hand. Then he has 60 and I have 30.
Right.
So he's the chip leader in 2 hands and I'm out in 3 hands.
Right.
You are not that far away. So it looked like, oh, I have this huge advantage. But all the pros were saying, he's going to kill Jamie. He's going to, now we're going to go where the real experience is going to, and I just knew that I was going to figure out a way to get this over. And they also said that when we're like this, we were going to be able to battle. We were very deep.
Right.
And so we were going to be able to play. It could have easily gone for 3, 6, 8, 10 hours. And I got it over within 17 minutes. I think we probably played 5 hands, but it was a nothing. And then all of a sudden, he has pocket tens. He doesn't re-raise me, so I'm kind of like allowed to, play a hand pretty inexpensively. And it comes, queen on the flop, but queen with some kind of draw on the flop. And he bets, and I make it look like I'm bluffing.
Right.
That in the same way that, because I think I had the last couple of hands, I'd probably just maybe shoved all in, and showed him a nothing, knowing, figuring that he didn't have anything. So meaning it all just kind of fit my narrative of that and he's just feeling like. And so I ended up talking him into it, and that's what he said. He's like, "All right, you talked me into it," and I had him, and so it was, and he was the nicest guy. He was so classy and respectful, and I was just losing my mind. But at that point, I hadn't slept a lot in the last 10 days, and when you're sleep deprived and on this adrenaline rush, I was kind of in another world, and I didn't know if it was what I was dreaming. Or an actual reality. Truly, I did not know. When they were interviewing me afterwards, I would say, I'm still not sure, because it could have been a dream. When you're really sleep deprived, you don't know if this is this reality or is this, and so I was just, I couldn't believe it. And my dad was, so bad at that point. They tried to get him on a hospital plane, because he knew that he had very few days, maybe a month left, and they couldn't get him on the hospital plane. He wanted to be there for it, but he couldn't do so. What I asked was, and it was 7:00 in the morning, New York time, and so what I asked was, is could I have a moment? The minute that I won, I was still sitting at the table. I said, I just want to call my dad, because all my other friends and family that were able to make it were out there with me. And I just asked for a moment of silence, because I just wanted to make the call to him and let him know that before he died, he could see that I actually, I was very successful in helping other people, but I had never done anything kind of for myself. And so when he said, I just wish you would do something that would only make you happy before I go. And so he could see that, I was actually successful at something that was just making me happy. And so I called him, but he was already sleeping. He was kind of in and out of it all the time. And so I didn't get him, but I got to leave him this message that was really, really nice afterwards. And so
he's got to be so proud of you at that moment.
That's so cool. It was, but also a very difficult time where, that's why when, people thought I had a backer. I never had a backer. This guy, I tried to give somebody half my money after taxes just as a gift, and he ends up suing me because he's from England and they don't have to pay taxes on gambling earnings, and he thought that he should get half before taxes and whatever. He just got greedy, got weird, and then I wasn't going to fly out to Las Vegas to go, argue a court case. So, I'm not going to lose the last time that I had with my father. We didn't know how long he was going to make it. And so it was just, a really weird, odd time, which was amazing and also very sad. And, and then these little annoyances that, now everybody knows the truth. I mean, the World Series of Poker always knew, all my friends and family always knew, but there were rumors that I was backed by somebody and that's why they were suing me for half my... I never had a backer. I was sponsored by Bodog at that time. There was a company called Bodog, and so, I didn't need the money. And so it was just so odd that that's how that rumor got started, that
That
maybe
could have
I had a
been-
backer that I didn't want to pay.
That could have been early internet days where people were just firing random
It
stuff
wa-
off, right?
it
And
was.
then you got to remember the poker industry, or the poker industry during that time. There was a lot of who knew, opacity, right? Maybe, right? So
Yeah, if it was now, it would all be on the internet. I would have done podcasts.
checked,
and
very
it would have been
validated.
yeah, now anybody can check if they just go. It's all in court records, exactly what happened. But people don't like to find the facts; they just like to spread rumors. And so,
I remember that time and just kind of thinking about it as 2006. You go, yeah, that's sort of where the internet was at that time.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird, but it all worked out.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful and grateful for everything that I had to go through, because it taught me so much about, not trusting so many people, not just blindly giving away my money like I used to, being much more thoughtful about how to be philanthropic and how to have impact. And you can actually invest your money to have really, a high level of impact where you are also making money. You don't just have to give away all your money.
It's a win-win.
Right? You can, right. There are win-wins in investing. I'm part of a new fund now called the Visionary Private Equity Group. And that's our whole philosophy, is that we will donate half of everything that we make, but nobody in the fund has to ever donate. So we're doing it on your behalf. So when you make money in the fund, which the fund is doing fantastic, but it's, this isn't a promotion for anybody, like it's closed, but it's that when we open up our new fund, everything we do has to have some level of impact. But what we do with the money that we're making on the fund is also having additional impact, and no one, that's invested, it doesn't touch them at all. And so it's just now kind of the way that I want to live my life, is that everything I do has to have some meaning to it, so that it's not only not just selfish, but that I feel like I'm always giving back in a way that my life has been so fortunate, that how can I give back in a way without giving all of myself?
Now, Jamie, I know a lot of people know you from the legend of the World Series of Poker, but you had a successful Hollywood career before that. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and then what was the transition after the poker fame?
Sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved artists so much that I wanted to help them build their careers. So I started as an agent, then became a manager. I was doing very similar work as an agent. We were just basically helping them build their careers. And then I realized that after doing that for 10, 12 years, that it was really about the money behind the productions, so that you could only help artists up until a point. And if they weren't having a hand in creating their own projects, you were very limited. So I started working on the finance side of things. And that's where I am now, where I really enjoy being able to get things made. And the only way to do that is with the money, if you're working on the independent side of things. And so I was really fortunate to work with some super talented people that I could help, get to another level, and then be able to see, I guess, a lot of my life has been about connecting the dots and seeing things that could be intertwined. And so, helping artists get into production and finance, and then seeing that brands and advertising money was going to be a big factor in where does this all come from. The reason why television was basically created was to sell ads, right? It wasn't the other way around. We think that it's about TV shows sell, and then the ads inside the TV shows. The TV shows are there as content so that you will watch the ads.
That's the container for the ads.
Exactly. And so once I realized that, that was the best way that I could really help artists was on the financial side of things, I started to focus a lot more on that. And, it's a very tough business now. Even though there's so much more money flowing, there is so much less opportunity because there are so few buyers.
Right.
That everything is concentrated. It seems like we have 300, 500, 1,000 channels, but there's really very few buyers for independent film that make it worth it for the investment. You could sell anything for $100,000 that you made for $1 million, or sell it for $2 million when you made it for 10. Sure, there's unlimited amount of buyers to help you fund people's dreams, but I am only working on the financially sound business model of independent film. And so it's not a full-time job for me by any stretch, but it's something that I really enjoy, and I'll always kind of have my hands in because you are part of the creative process, and I do have a lot to offer in that way, but there is no creative process without the money.
Yep.
So, I've realized that it's not about getting credits. It's not about anything other than making sure that these projects can be made and can be made in a thoughtful and respectful way based on how the artist had envisioned them. So I love just being a part of that process.
Now, what was different, because you were kind of behind the scenes helping other people, but now you're a poker celebrity. What's the difference now being on the other side?
I mean, I never planned on or had any intention of being famous.
Of course.
No, I'd always wanted to represent and help other people, knowing that also the fame is the least attractive part of success, where you're almost not allowed to have a bad day.
Right.
If you're not feeling good and people had traveled from Japan and you were their favorite player and they wanted to come meet you, you can't be having a bad day when they want to say hello, they want to take a picture, they want to talk to you. And when you're in Vegas, and especially at the World Series of Poker, it is never ending of people that now also. So what I've done is I've understood them and their side of things, as opposed to thinking of it as how many people are potentially bothering me.
This is,
No, I look at it as what a gift that I can give to them. It makes them so happy, and what a gift that they're giving me. All they're doing is showing me love.
Yeah.
And so, that I'd say 95, 99% on any given day. There's always one, somebody that has a comment about something and they don't like me. Not everyone is going to like you. I don't strive for that. I just want to make sure that I'm respectful and that I appreciate all the kindness and love and positive energy that they're showing me. And so once I understood that, which was very quickly, it was a little overwhelming in the beginning, and I tried to maybe hide, from maybe not go out in public so much.
It's natural, it's natural.
Yeah, I would avoid going into, situations where I thought it was just going to all be about me having to, be on.
Right.
And now it just doesn't. Not only does it not bother me, but I try to say hello, get to know them a little bit, and at least give them an experience where I know what it was like when I was a big fan of, and I still am a big fan of, other artists, other celebrities, other athletes, whatever it is. I understand how disappointing it can be to meet the people that you thought you might never get to meet for whatever reason. And so I look at it as a gift now. And also, you can't deny that when you have a certain level of fame, that it opens up doors and it creates a lot of opportunity that wouldn't be created otherwise. And it allows me, it used to be that so I wouldn't have to wait online, for a dinner reservation, or, you could always get into wherever you wanted to go, or you get these invites that you wouldn't necessarily have gotten. But I think that there are so many other celebrities in other worlds that are poker fans that also, on top of everything else, makes it really interesting, where somebody who I'm a huge fan of lights up when they see me, and I just can't believe, wait a second, they actually know who I am? Like, how would you know who I am? And because they're a big poker fan. And I guess, when you win the right tournament at the right time, I got very lucky in the right space. And so it was a time where people remember it really fondly in general, that seeing someone else, seeing them light up and them wanting to talk to me when I'm thinking like, oh my God, I don't want to bother this person, but they really want to talk to me. And then being able to do all of these charity events. The only thing that I really ever ask of anyone is that please come to one of the charity events because the celebrities are the drivers very often of these events, right? Because everybody wants to come and play with them, and that helps us raise money and awareness.
Successful event.
So if I can drive celebrities to come to charity events, that I feel like is one great way. And then we also get to spend a lot more time together, and you get to know them, and then it's a snowball effect, right? Because then they bring in other, and we can all help the world in a way that we can have so much more impact than we can do on our own, right? Everything to me is about community and impact, and am I leaving the world a better place than I found it? Because the world is going through a lot. It always is, but it seems like maybe we're going to have a lot more challenges than we used to have. And so the more you can be part of community, whether it's in poker, sports betting, investing, film and television, and there are these incredible communities where if people are willing to listen to what I have to say, or want to listen, or think that I have value, that at least what I always try to do is, instead of ever taking from people, taking from communities, I always try to give first, so that if I work really hard and I study and I learn, and then I can provide to a community, I'm making that community better and stronger. Then it's okay for me to maybe ask them to buy into a charity tournament, or to take part in something that I'm doing, be part of a contest, so that I'm not just using the community, I'm providing value and then enjoying the benefits of having that community.
Now, I can tell you the first time that I realized that you weren't just talking the talk and you were walking the walk, because we've done a bunch of charities together, right? You've always been, you bring BBO in, we do our best, and we've raised a bunch of money for...
BBO has been fantastic over and over. Every time I've ever asked you to do anything, all you say is yes, how, what do you need? For every charity event, you donate the tables and you build the tables and you make it so special, and it creates a level of professionalism and excitement and warmth that when people can play on this beautiful table, as opposed to, sometimes they have these rented kind of falling apart tables that, it's still great that people are there and donating money.
Just a little bit.
But this makes it so it makes them feel like they're at a professional world championship kind of event. And so you've made it so much better, and the experience is so much more valuable. And also being able to spend time with you is always a pleasure. And so thank you for all that you've done, for all the events, and there's so much more for us to do.
Well, the respect definitely goes both ways, absolutely mutual. And I'll tell you, when the first couple, I think it might have been one of the early Super Bowls that we did, just kind of hearing you on the calls, and I was like, because I didn't know you very well, I was like, man, this guy's really giving a lot of himself, and he's trying to maximize the value. And then the second one that we did, you did it again, and I go, you know what? I think Jamie's for real, because in this charity world, there are some people that
that are just taking.
Yeah.
People thought I was doing it as a living, that I was making money
right.
from all of these things. They have no idea how much it costs us, and that
the time and the extra mile that you give to give value, your own time to train and help coach and take them through an event as a value, and you're not charging them anything. This is just your own time. When I saw that, I go, okay, well, I think we're probably aligned. All right, so I think that was the beginning of a lot of the cool things that we did, and this now spans over a decade, right? So talk to me about sort of how, what do you see is like the special sauce in your type of charity events, because the ones that you do are always top notch, right? What are some of the things that you look for to put together? And coming from Hollywood, you put things together really well, right? So how would you put that together?
I appreciate it, but just so you know, it hasn't always been that way. When I first started lending my name, lending my brand, lending my experience and my skills to charity events, they didn't all turn out that way. And so
I'm shocked.
I learned so much. It's now, I think I'm going to be doing my 380th, something like that, event. But in the beginning, the first, let's say, 50 of them, I learned so much about, one, you have to vet the charities. Just because celebrities are attached to them does not make them worthwhile.
Right.
So many charities are completely upside down, where all the money is going to the charity, to run the charity, to market the charity, where the money isn't getting to the people in need, right? And so it's okay, of course there are expenses, but if a charity has more than, let's say, 15 to 20% in expenses, it's usually, not always, sometimes it's still great, even if it's 50-50, but
it's a flag.
In general, you just want to do your research. You want to vet them really well.
Right.
Then I just learned so much about how to, from A to Z, how to put these on properly. And people think it's just simple, that you just invite people and they come, they donate money, you donate it to charity, but it's not. It is as tough as producing a movie.
Right.
It takes maybe 3 to 6 months to put one together.
Like a top tier one,
A top tier one. And to do it right, think about who you need at these events. So you need very wealthy people in general. Now, some people come even if they can just barely afford it. And I hope that, we're not taking any money from people to donate that they can't afford.
But it should be people of means, people that can donate.
People that can afford it. So one, having access to that. I have access to, let's say, 10,000 people that I know that want to donate to charity events. So you have to have access to the crowd. Then you have to have access and relationships with the celebrities that help drive the people who want to come and donate. Then you have to know how to produce. If you know how to produce a film or a television show, you can produce a live event. Now, there is a very special kind of skill set to doing a poker live event. It's different. And then connecting all of the different things that you want to have. You want to not just have poker. You want to have other experiences that people can have, because what if you just came there to play poker, but you get knocked out in 5 seconds?
Right, you got other things to do, other ways to donate,
and other ways to bring people together.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just about providing alcohol and food.
Right.
There's so much more to it that people don't understand, and also ways to maximize the raise without taking advantage of the people, and making sure that every single thing is done right. For the right kind of an event. And so,
I mean, if you guys haven't been to one of Jamie's fundraisers, I highly suggest it. It's super, super fun all the way through. And the Paramount event every year is a wonderful example of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I look forward to that. Me and my wife, Pearl, look forward to that because it's fun. We play some cards, and then if we get knocked out, there's all kinds of stuff to do. And you just you leave feeling good.
Yes, we do feel, well, also, having the families of the people that we're helping directly at the event means so much. I get a lot of feedback that that's one of the only events where you can actually see where your money's going, right? So we bring the people that we're helping to the event so you can see that we actually change their lives. So your money is directly going to help specific human beings. And so, yeah, it's such a pleasure. We've been doing it now 13 or 14 years, and it warms my heart. We've kind of mastered the way that event should go. Now, that event itself could be bigger and better, but we're very limited as to when they can do it because it's on the lot at Paramount in this legendary space of where they filmed The Godfather. And it's pretty amazing what they give us, this kind of red carpet, indoor, outdoor, everything that we have. But the things that I would love to do with it, some of those things we're limited on. And so I like to bring those ideas, like some of the things we did at the Super Bowl, we couldn't do at Paramount. And it's sold out early every year, so we can only get so big. I think we had our biggest one, and we were still only allowed to bring in maybe less than 1,000 people.
Right.
I would love to do it for 10,000 people, but we just don't have the space. We don't have the bandwidth. It's so we do our best, and they're so much fun and so fulfilling that it just makes me feel really good. And so I'm so lucky. You have to have a lot of partners, and you have to have a lot of favors that you can call on. With these events, imagine, you want to give away $100,000 worth of prizes, but there are laws in certain cities where you can't just give away $100,000. So you can give away, trips or flights or jewelry or things that are donated.
Right.
Like we give away your table, right? That all the celebrities sign, and now somebody gets to have that in their house forever. They love this. This is one of their favorite things that they could ever get as a grand prize, especially if you're a poker player. And so your generosity and the other companies that are so generous every year, it means everything. And so if you have, I just kind of, it's been 35 years that I've been in one level of business or another, that I just have a lot of favors that I can pull, right? And I've done a lot of favors for other people. And now I've donated so much time and money and energy and skills to 300 other events. They're now willing to help me when I do my events.
See,
right?
you say favor. I'm like, you built the team, right? Because you go, George, hey, we have an event. We're aligned in what we're trying to do, how we want to create value. That I'm part of the team. Jamie calls, let's go.
Yes.
Right. So you call it favor, I call it a team. But you're going to need that in whether it's charity or it's business. You need that right team around.
It really is, and it all goes towards that you are not just in business to make money. You're in business to make people's lives better.
Change people's lives.
Right. And if I can make enough people's lives better, then they will be in the position where they will want to give back. It's not about donating money.
Right.
Donate an hour of your time to a soup kitchen, right? Just be nice to somebody today. Just do something to pay it forward, pay it backward, call it whatever you want. But if all of us were thinking about how we could make other people's lives better, even when everyone's going through something.
Right.
And I understand a lot of people are hurting and a lot of people don't have any money. Then, get your life on track. But if we can help you enough that when your life is good, you can help other people, that really changes the world in an exponential way.
Yeah, right.
And so you and I are on the same path, and I've always just been so impressed with how you handle your business, how you handle your life, the impact that you have. It's just such a pleasure and an honor to be part of the BBO family, which is a family.
I don't take compliments very well right now. So I don't know what to do right now. Blush, whatever. So let's transition. Let's talk business and investments, because one of the favorite things that when we get on the phone, I always know that Jamie has cool deals that he's working on. We're in some of them. What are some of the things that you're working on right now that you are excited about?
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. I am part of two different funds, one that I mentioned before, where we are going to have a real impact on the world, making a lot of money for the people who are part of the funds, making money for ourselves, but also donating back 50% of whatever we make. And so I'm very excited about that.
What is the fund focused on?
Well, one of them is in entertainment, and the other one is completely agnostic. And you know, I've been part of the Haas Portman family office now for almost 15 years. And it has been learning from, you know, a best friend of mine, Grant Haas, who's just a genius investor, incredible human being, has taught me so much, has helped save my life, you know, medically when I was going through everything that I was going through during COVID. And, you know, in so many ways, he's just been so good to me. And he taught me most of what I know about the investment process. And he's invested in 65 deals where I got to follow on, either put my own money in, right, and just be fortunate that every deal he invests in basically is a winner.
Right.
And so I can invest my money properly, but I also learned so much about how to build those companies. And so it made me realize that my skill set is not just in one area, but in marketing and growth, and so that I can be an advisor to companies that, especially companies that are related to what I do. So I'm now working with 2 companies that are in the sports betting and gambling industry. I'm working with 2 companies that are in the film and television industry. I'm working on bringing all of these things together so that, you know, I've obviously been with BBO for a long time, and I'm so proud that I can then connect BBO and these other companies that I'm working with seamlessly so that we can all grow together, because almost everything I do benefits everything else that I do.
It's all interconnected.
Right? And I make sure that I will not take on, you know, any kind of a role with any company that doesn't make sense for everything else that I do. I've been very fortunate in being offered some pretty incredible kind of sponsorship ads, whatever you want to call it, commercials, but they're not products that I would ever use,
Right.
and they wouldn't be honest. And so I've turned down an extraordinary amount of money and opportunity because they just didn't make sense for my life.
Right.
And fortunately, you know, I seem to have a pretty decent presence now on Instagram.
Yeah.
And that is a place, right, where you can, so it's kind of a combination of, we can do YouTube videos, but also posts. And it's my favorite kind of, you know, combination of all the websites, all the social media. I feel like Instagram serves, you know, my purpose in that I will be able to create content now where I've just built something in my house that I can create content on a much more regular basis, because I wasn't on social media for a long time.
Exactly. You came back with a vengeance, and your social media presence has exponentially grown, and your knowledge of how to execute and use it in the last couple of years, right? Amazing.
Well, I'm very fortunate in that I have thousands of celebrity friends, and they're willing to repost things for me.
Right.
And, you know, that kind of that hits the algorithm the right way.
That doesn't hurt. Yeah,
right?
it don't
and
hurt.
So all of a sudden my stuff just starts getting picked up. And so when I'm doing reels now, it used to be, I'd be lucky if I got 100,000 views on a reel. Now I'm getting up to almost 1 million. And this is all within the last 6 months.
Right.
And so I now understand how. Now, I was also never posting anything. So how do you grow when you don't post? That's pretty obvious that I had zero growth because I was never posting.
You know what just that reminds me of? It sounds like the learning of the investment sort of disciplines. It sounds like a second Johnny Chan moment. You kind of like with the right people being a mentor, and then you're learning, and then now you're starting to act and become.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, I love being a mentor, and I also love learning from others.
Yes.
So everything I do, I'm teaming up with people who are really sharp, who can teach me so much, who I have things to offer, and I always make sure that I'm providing value to them as much or more than they're ever providing to me, right, so that I never feel like I'm taking from anybody.
Because that relationship has to be.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I have a lot of young people that ask me for advice. And even if this isn't what they're asking me about, I usually try to explain to them that I'll tell you where you're going wrong. You are, because you're trying. They're asking, how do I get a sponsor?
Yeah.
How do I be an ambassador? How do I make deals? How do I get involved in? How do I become an advisor? How do I get involved in these different companies? And I said, stop thinking about yourself.
Right. So
Stop
what value
thinking about right. Think about
can
what.
you
So if
offer?
there's any business that you want to work with, think about how much value can I provide to them, and also instead of asking me for help, why don't you show me what you can provide to me
Correct.
first?
That's a much
And then I'll
easier
be
conversation.
right, I'll be so much more willing to help you
Right.
when you offer me something first,
Correct.
as opposed to just constantly. We live in a society that is always looking to take.
Right.
And I am only looking to give.
Right.
And yes, and then people say, well, you're so fortunate. You have all of these different companies that are willing to pay you. Yeah, they're willing to pay me because of the value that I provide to them. It's not just randomly money that they want to give me. And so if you know that you're providing value and that you're creating value and that my whole intention is always to see what I can do for other people, it will always come back to you. That's not the reason I do it, but I realize very quickly, call it karma, call it positive energy, call it whatever you want to call it. But it is absolutely true that the energy and the value that you put into the world
That's it.
is how it comes back to you.
exponentially.
And I'll know a lot of people, and I will even ask them a few questions. I'll say, so basically, you're just sitting in your house. You're not talking to anybody. You're not providing. You're not learning. You're not educating yourself. And you're asking, why aren't these things happening?
Yeah, and
to
you're
me?
upset when it doesn't happen.
Right.
Why? What is going on right
Same
now?
way that people would tell me that they should have won the World Series of Poker, but they didn't actually play. So, get off your
Right.
ass,
Yep.
work hard, learn as much as you can, be a sponge for information, listen to people more than you talk, right? When I was younger, I used to talk a lot. And now people would see me at a poker table and they'll say, you're so quiet.
Right.
I'm just listening. I'm just here to listen. I'm
Right.
not a big talker anymore. I am a listener. And I've learned so much. And if you get to a certain age and you're still a big talker more than you are a listener, you're probably not learning very much. You're probably not growing.
Right.
Right? It's you like to hear yourself talk. I'm just so much more interested in other people. I am the one talking mostly today because I know that is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing what I need to do because, we're here for that. But in general, I would so much rather hear your ideas and then figure out how I can be of service to that. When you explain to me that you're going into Asia, I now have so many ideas about how I can help you going into Asia and growing the brand. And it's not just about BBO poker tables. It's about all the services and all the products, the gaming table, the game theory, everything that you're building. It's brilliant. And I just know that there are so many ways that I can help you. And it just makes me so happy. And it never takes a lot of time to actually make an effort to help other
Right.
people. People think that I'll be giving away all of my time and I won't have time for myself. Yes, we are on limited time. It's the one thing we can't get back in the world. But there is always time to help other people, especially if you want the benefits of other people willing to help you, right? And then we're all just helping each other, and it's a reciprocal, beautiful, wonderful thing, right?
I mean, it's funny because I say the same thing in sort of business and organizational building. It's really what value that I can create, because the more that we develop, whether it's team members, and that they become better in what they do, it actually makes it easier. For me, it comes back, all right? That work comes back. My work is not like tactical things. It's trying to build people up to create the value for them, support. You think about it on a product level. Okay, are you giving more value to your customers, right? If that happens, then the snowball goes. So I know exactly 1000% what you're saying, which is create the value, put it out. And I guess for younger people, you have to trust that energy that you put out is going to come back to you. And once you understand that, now things start unlocking and it's fun.
It is amazing how much better your life is when you step outside of your own ego and you stop thinking about what you need and you start thinking about what other people need and how you can serve your community. and all of a sudden your life gets better. I mean, instantly your life gets better.
It's easy. It's just a little backwards flip.
It
flip
really
of
is
the dial.
amazing, and it's not their fault because it's the way you're usually brought up by
Right.
parents that are telling you to focus on you.
Right.
You're what's most important. You are what's special. But that doesn't serve you in
Right.
life.
Right.
If you're only thinking about yourself, you cannot make yourself that much better because we all need other people. Right? In general, yes, there are a few jobs and a few things that you can do on your own, certainly. But in general, we all need other people and we need community, and we're human beings. And I know we're getting away, far away from this. The more AI comes into our life and the more robots come into our life and things that take us away, they separate us. But in life, humans are meant to be connected, not disconnected. And so as long as we can keep that going, AI is such a wonderful thing if you use it properly. Of course it can be dangerous and it can be, it can hurt a lot of people. But there are ways that I'm using AI now, especially in sports betting, that completely changed my life and that saved me so much time, which then allow me to do other things. Right? So it's a lot of the things that I think are really beneficial with all of the new education, information, everything that's coming out of AI is giving us more time to do other things. It's saving us time on tasks that maybe we wouldn't have to spend so much time doing so that we can do other things. So you've built such a beautiful brand that has so much warmth. And I always talk about brand loyalty and brand warmth. And the fact that when people think about BBO, they think about you and the company behind it and your team and how much you care. And I've heard from so many people that if there was ever an issue, you solve it immediately. You're always thinking about the customer first. You're never thinking about the money. You're only thinking about how to make sure that people have the greatest possible experience and that you are delivering the most value for what they're spending. People have a limited amount of money to spend in general. There are some very wealthy people, but the average person has a limited amount of money to spend. When they spend it on you and your brand, you want to make sure, and you always do this, that people come away with an experience from BBO that they know that they can trust the brand, they can trust the product, you will always make it right, and that you stand behind everything that you're selling so that you're not just taking from people, you're actually giving to them. And it really does. It's amazing how that works. That then creates, they talk to their friends, and then they talk to other people, and then they see it, and then they'll see some of us playing and talking about BBO. And you have these great ambassadors with the company, and you've chosen very wisely to work with the right people.
We've been very lucky in that respect. And I mean, you said it absolutely correct, because we have one value, that is to create value. If we're not doing that, we should not exist, right? BBO or whatever I'm doing should not exist, right? So once again, I don't know how to take compliments, Jamie, so I'm gonna transition on out of here. So I feel a little bit, so Jamie, is there anything else that you want to shout out, anything that you wanna bring up that you're working on that you're interested in?
So one of the things I'm really excited about now is bringing together the gaming community and the entertainment community in a way that we can provide value and entertainment and excitement and involve people in philanthropy. And so all the things that I am doing, whether it's connected to film, television, live events, philanthropy, sports betting, poker, it's all so interconnected. And then when you talk about investing, I can drive investment dollars into this ecosystem where people think that poker is just about the game that you're playing. But so much more. When you had asked me before about my preparation, that a lot of what helped me win was my diet and my mental focus and my sleep patterns and my health regimen, and taking all of that seriously. Now people talk about, when I talk about true hydration and not drinking, certain kinds of water, people thought I was nuts back then. People didn't understand why I was eating blueberries. They thought it was just, I was just being funny. If you understand that blueberries are kind of an ultimate brain food, right, and that gave me maybe an extra 3 to 5% sharpness, mental clarity, and that I was drinking a different kind of water than everybody else. And that now people understand that,
Right.
that water can be toxic, right? And the air can be toxic. And our food supply is very often toxic. And so people, again, thought I was a little nutty because I was only ordering certain food from certain places and I had things, brought in for me. It wasn't that I was just trying to feel special. It was that is how I live my life. That I am always looking for how I can be truly hydrated, mentally focused, get the right sleep. That when I was talking about, you and I have both experienced stem cell therapy. And I used to talk about this maybe 12, 15 years ago, and people thought I was nuts. And I would talk about having a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in my home, where I was so fortunate, and a far infrared sauna, and now I'm doing, ozone treatments and treating my blood in a way that is, pretty radical, but works really well for me.
You're the OG body hacker.
I was, and it's not like I'm in such perfect shape, but I'm in a lot better shape than I would be if I wasn't
really,
doing it.
I mean, health is so important, right?
It is
so important.
And no, I am not a bodybuilder, and I don't look, like I'm in perfect, whatever physical shape, but I'm in the best shape that I can be for myself without restricting myself in a way that, without working out every day and doing all the things that maybe I should be doing if I wanted to really be optimal. But my mental health is excellent, and I'm getting the right sleep, and I am eating so clean that I can only imagine what I would feel and look like if I wasn't doing all of these things. And so there are brands and products that I care so deeply about that I'm not necessarily involved in, but we do look for ways that maybe we can create more availability that people would understand that in the same way that you should be looking for a different type of water maybe than you don't want to drink tap water, let's say in America. And a lot of our food supply you don't want to be eating. And certain places, just breathing the air is really difficult, right? If you see now people are understanding that we're being sprayed by chemicals, and there are all kinds of things that they used to think were conspiracy theories, and they're absolutely absolutely true. And there are still all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories that are not true. And you just have to figure out what you can and can't believe. But we all know that our food supply is pretty toxic.
It's garbage.
Yes.
It's pretty garbage.
Yes. And so even if you just put a filter on your shower, right? Filter the water that you're drinking. Just little things that will change how focused you can be, how productive you can be, and then imagine what you can then give back to other people. So I feel like the companies that I'm involved in sometimes might not make sense to an outside person. Like they didn't understand why I was involved in this water company. But it's because I care so much about when you're playing games, how you're feeling, and what your overall diet and health means to your ability to then create and build business, which is going to help the world, right? So everything is interconnected. And so
that literally goes back to what we were talking at the beginning, which is the quality of your decisions. Well, you put
you're right.
all of it.
Everything is a decision, right? Everything we do, people think that they're not, some people think that, well, I just don't gamble. Of course you do. You're gambling on every decision that you make every day, if you're gonna, fly or drive to a place, you're taking a gamble. Everything is a decision based on limited information in our lives. And so just know that we're all gamblers. And, it used to be that people didn't even understand that like a stockbroker, investment banker was a gambler. Right now they understand that. They relate them to us now, right? They relate them to people who are in sports betting or in poker, in the entertainment business. We are all gamblers. And so to me, I like to find, some people want to just play for the love of playing, and that's great. But I like to figure out how can I have as much of an advantage as possible when I'm playing in a competition. Now, when I'm playing in a cash game, I'm happy to give away my money sometimes. It's just about fun. But when I'm playing in a competition where there's one winner at the end, I am going to try to figure out the way that I can have the best shot legally, fairly, so that I can, so that I can get through this field. And so, a lot of people have thought that I won one tournament and then I never really had any other success in poker because I haven't won the main event again. This is not a brag. I've spent a lot of time. I've played probably 140 major tournaments with, thousands of people with bigger buy-ins, and I've made 17 final tables, and I've cashed, I think, 50 or 60 times. And so, it's not the greatest record in the world, but it's up there,
Yeah.
I would say, in the top 1%. And so people who think that, when I'm playing poker that I'm not taking it seriously, I absolutely am. Again, except for the rare cash games where we're just having fun and throwing money around.
So that's advice from the OG to the younger poker players that that discipline is really what is the longevity that creates the success that creates. So, we got a lot of young poker players these days,
Yes.
right?
And they come and go, and they, right?
Exactly.
And so so people would ask me, have you stayed around? How are you still doing what you're doing? I've probably been playing poker now, with real poker tournaments, let's say for 25 years, taking it pretty seriously. And, that may sound like, a short period of time to a lot of people, but trust me, after you're doing it for 5 or 10 years, it feels like a lot. And so many people who we started out playing with are not playing anymore. And it is something that can kind of churn you around and spit you out. And it is not easy to last and be relatively successful for 25 years in
Discipline
this, call it a
all
business.
All fronts.
I am just on a constant path. I will never be good enough, right, for myself. I will never be the player that I want to be, which is a great thing because I will always have a path and always something to chase. Otherwise, I'd be bored.
You'd be bored, and then you wouldn't play
and
anymore.
I would give it up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I achieved my ultimate goal in my first shot at the World Series of Poker.
That's crazy.
That kind of changed everything.
Crazy.
That I didn't need to. I didn't need to become a professional poker player
Right.
all day, 24/7 to chase it. But it's always been a favorite hobby of mine
You get to
that
choose.
I do spend a lot of time and energy. And I think that it's helped me so much. The skills, the relationships, the community has helped me so much in my other life, let's say, if you call it that. It's all connected, but I do have a different life than just being a poker player. And so poker has helped me so much in my life. I do believe, even if you never play for money, just learning the skills of what it takes to be successful in poker is really important for life.
Huge. All right, there's so much overlap when we were talking. Some of how you handle poker is kind of the exact same as it comes to business, as it comes to life, as it becomes for all of it.
Sports betting, people think we're just straight gambling, and we are not. It is again a game of limited information that we can find edges where we have more limited information than other people, all legally. But there are ways to be a winning sports bettor. You can absolutely be a winner, at least win more and lose less. That is my goal as a sports bettor. Is I want to teach at least 1 million people how to win more and lose less. And at least when you do become a winner and you are making money, you will consider giving back and donating to your favorite cause or just doing something kind for other people.
So Jamie, how can people learn more about that?
Well, one, I'm on a platform called Winnable. It's www.winnable.com, and then winnable//Gold Luck. So it's called Gold Luck Sports. We are on Winnable. You can join for free. We are winning at 67% versus the spread on our free picks. We are only winning close to 60% on all of our picks, but 67% over the last 88, which is the last 3.5 months. We give almost a daily free pick. It's a pretty extraordinary win rate that we have, and we have an incredible collective of people. But one of the secrets that I have, which I'm now going to be sharing publicly, There's an AI program called Rhythm, RITHMM, rhythm.com. And it's this Rhythm AI is this brilliant group of MIT quants and people who are so much smarter than I am. And what they've done is where I used to have, let's say, 6 screens. So I would have 3 and 3, maybe 8 screens, and I would have to do all of my data collection and information on a daily basis for figuring out. This would take me so many hours of my day in each sport for each player, because we look at props. We're cherry picking. I am not picking every game on the board every day. I am cherry picking of any sport. That's how we make sure that we are winning at a 60% clip on average over the last 6 years since we've been documenting. So it's not easy to do, but Rhythm has now made my life so much easier because it shows you all the stats combined for every game, for every player in all the sports that I'm betting on. And it basically takes away all the research that I would have to do in certain areas. Now, I still do my own research, and our team still, of course, brings our own kind of information and all of that. And then you have to just have a gut and understand. I've watched so many games over the last 50 years of my life that I just understand better than most people how to bet on sports, right? It's just an experience thing that you can't teach. But what Rhythm is now doing for me and making things so much easier, it is absolutely helping people win more, lose less, and not have to spend their whole life on information. And so I'm just so happy that I have this, this program accessible to me. It's really changed things for me. And so you put that all together with, the free information, and then we do have a paid group on Winnable. It's $28 a week, as opposed to the $1,000 a week that other people charge for less sharp information. So which just, there is a lot of cost to what we do.
Right.
And so the more you win, the more you get limited on sports books. And so if we were only betting maybe $50, $100 a game, no problem. But when you're betting larger amounts, we do get flatted, limited at sports books, because they're allowed to kind of, have winners playing less or not playing at all on their site. And so I am known to be a winner at a lot of these sports books. And so we have limited ways that we can get unless you want to just randomly trust people with cash all day, every day. It's not a business that I want to be in, trading cash around
Right.
all the time. And so that's again one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be with Edge Boost. That has completely changed my life, in that I never have to travel with cash again. I will never get turned down by any sports book trying to put money on, with a Visa card. So every time there's a new sports book, I can get on using the Edge Boost Visa debit card. And so what a gift that's been. We make cash back. There are no costs. It's pretty amazing. And you go to the World Series of Poker, I have to bring at least $100,000 in cash. Now I never have to travel with cash again. And so it's accepted 100% at every casino. So I can just, take my money on and offline. I can travel with it, but it's all on a card that, nobody can really steal from you, because if they do, they still have to be you. The
Right.
casinos all know me.
Right.
So good luck trying to be me in a casino. Nobody can steal money from me ever again, which is so nice.
Seems like a great innovation that was long needed.
So needed in sports, and it's the official debit card of the World Series of Poker now.
Nice.
Which I still do a lot of work with them, and I'm very proud to be an ambassador for them anytime that they wish to have me. It's just been it's been a great ride.
Well, Jamie, it's been a hell of a time with you. Thank you so much for sitting down with us, and finally, after all these years, stopping by the damn shop.
You can't imagine how proud I am to be part of the BBO family, and for all of these years, you've been so good to me. And so anything that I can ever do for you, I'm there, and we're going to do a lot more. It's so exciting, the future that we have together, and what we're going to be able to do in terms of impact and philanthropy and business, and watching the growth of your business and how you've evolved. I'm just so proud to be part of it all.
Once again, I don't know how to take a compliment, so thank you so much. I love you, my brother.
I love
All
you
right.
too.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you,
All right, Jamie. All right.
George.